The game I'm going to look at today is Quarriors. It's published by WizKids. It's a 2 to 4 player game. It plays in, I'd say, maybe even 20 minutes once everyone's used to it, and it's sold as basically a deck building game without the cards, where instead of cards, you're using a bag of dice. Now, a little history. I've never been the biggest fan of the deck building genre. Like, I did enjoy Dominion for a little bit. It got a little stale. I never got any of the expansions. I played other things like Thunderstone and Puzzle Strike, and they didn't really grab a hold of me. On top of that, as I've described before, I'm a pretty solid Euro gamer, and dice are essentially my enemy. I just don't like randomness in my games. And on top of that, I've never really been into the fantasy genre. The idea of like dragons and monsters and knights attacking them and having to use like stats boosts and keeping track of all that stuff. It just, all this stuff combined just is essentially like game poison to me. So why on earth did I pick up Quarriors? It's quite simple, and publishers, pay attention to this. I picked up Quarriors solely because I've seen so many other glowing reviews for it, and it's like the new hotness, and I had to check it out. So there you go. Many of the reviewers out there, like Tom Vassell, basically swayed my opinion to at least pick this baby up and give it a shot. So let's go look at a demonstration, and I'll tell you what I thought afterwards. Smart box design is something that I enjoy about well-produced board games, and Quarriors doesn't disappoint in this respect. When you open the lid, you see your dice bags right away. You get your score sheet and instructions, and then a little tray for your cards and your point tokens. And then there's a secondary tray for all your dice. Anyone familiar with deck building games will immediately understand how this game is played. Each player starts off with a base pool of 8 quiddity dice, which give you your money during the game, and 4 assistant dice, which also grant money, but also have the chance of bringing monsters out onto the board. Players load their dice bags up with these dice, then draw and roll 6 dice at the beginning of each of their turns. If there ever comes a point where I need to draw dice from my bag and it's empty, then I fill it up with all the dice from my used pile, and then continue drawing. Here's how the game looks when you first start. There's these 3 basic cards that are always in each game. Then there's 3 randomly chosen spells, and then 7 randomly chosen monsters. And then when each of these cards come up, you put the appropriate set of dice beside each, and they're all color-coded, so they're pretty easy to identify. Now, the neat thing about this game is you do get the stack, like for the spells. This is how many spells you get. And for each type of spell, there's 3 different versions. So for the life spell, there's these 2 and this 1. And the rules simply say that you just can't have 2 of the same type of spell out at the same time. And the same goes for the monsters. So like, here's the monster deck. And so there's actually 3 different versions of each of these types of guys, as well as a couple of other monsters that aren't on the table, like this guy. The main point of this game is to acquire spells and monsters and use these to acquire glory points, so that when you acquire so many, you'll win the game. For example, this Death Dealer here, throughout the game I can use my quiddity to buy him at a cost of 3 quiddity, and if I can activate him and have him in my play area until the beginning of my next turn, he'll score me 2 glory points. The way this happens is that on my turn, I draw 6 dice from my dice bag, and I roll them. And this tells me what I can do during my turn. Certain symbols let you do certain things, like this little guy here lets me reroll this die and another die. And then I can decide what I want to do. Now in this case, all I got was money, or quiddity. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to spend. So I may buy one item on the board. I want to buy a monster, so I'm going to buy that death dealer. He cost me 3, so I move 3 to my used area. I grab one of these dice that represents the monster. And right now there's nothing else I can do, so I move everything to my used area. That's the end of my turn. The next player now does the same thing. They draw 6 dice from the dice bag, roll them to the table, and decide what they want to do with the roll. Now, with this roll, the player actually rolled a monster die. Now, the monster die is a special die which represents a monster that's in front of you, defending you. And what these icons on here mean is the top left number is its level and also how much it costs to ready him. The top right is how much attack power he has, and the bottom right is how many defense he has. So if I wanted to ready these 2 monsters here, they're both level 1, so it would cost me 2 to ready them. So I put 2 into my ready area, I spend my 2 quiddity, and now at the end of my turn I can also buy something. So I have 3 quiddity left, and let's say I'll buy a goblin. He costs 2, cost me 2, the rest of my dice go to the side. That's the end of my turn. Now let's pretend that in a future turn this player has these 2 monsters ready. Now this player rolls their dice and a monster appears for them. Now this monster says that they're level 2, so they cost 2 to play, but they have an attack of 4 and a defense of 4. So I'll ready this guy for the cost of 2, and now I immediately attack each player's monsters on the board. I'm showing a 2-player game, but if this were a 4-player game, this monster would use his full attack to attack this guy, and then the next player, and then the next player. But in this example, this guy has an attack of 4. These 2 guys have a defense of 2 and 2. So this player gets to choose one of his dice to defend. And so we'll go, well, this guy's attack at 4 beat this guy's defense of 2. So he's dead, and he has 2 left. Now he attacks this remaining guy with his attack of 2 versus a defense of 2. It's a tie, therefore the defender loses. Now let's imagine that later in the game, this player had finished their turn, and it's now this player's turn to start. What they do at the beginning of their turn is they look at any monsters that are still alive in front of them, and they score them. So this is a death dealer, so we take a look at the card, and this card says that if he's alive, you score 2 glory points. You go to the glory tracker and add 2 points for whichever player that scored. Now, one of the tricks to this game is even though you own a monster and you roll it, it doesn't guarantee that you're actually going to be able to play a monster that turn. Because even though there is a monster on this face, there's also just simply money on other faces. So it's always a gamble what you're going to get. One neat little aspect I like about this game is the spell system. Now, when you roll your dice, and you roll spells on your spell dice, you can actually save these up for future turns. All you do is you move these up to your ready area, and they're sort of on standby until you need to use them. One example is this life spell here. If you look at this card, it says this is a reaction spell. Cast a spell to give all creatures in your ready area plus 4 defense for the remainder of this turn. So what that means, indicated by the reaction, is you can save the spell until someone attacks you, and then you can go, aha, I'm going to use this right now, give myself more defense, and it's a way to plan for the future to defend yourself. So to sum up, I'm going to just demonstrate one quick round, trying to show as many aspects as I possibly can. So let's pretend that this is one player right here, and he has activated one monster.
This is my monster, and as it's the beginning of my turn, I go, hey, my monster survived till the beginning of my round. Woohoo! I get points. So I move him to the used area. I check out his card, and I go, okay, well, he scored 2 points for surviving. I now roll my 6 dice for this turn, which I put into my imaginary active area. Now, right here, 2 of my special portal dice showed up, which allow me to roll 2 new dice for each of these cubes. Well, actually, it's 2 for this one, 1 for this one. And so I'll do just that. Go into my bag, draw 3 new dice, and roll them. At this point, I can decide which monsters I'd like to bring out. So I will bring out my Death Dealer. And so it was a cost of 1, so he goes up there, and I pay 1 quiddity to my used pool. Now, because I brought a monster out, he will attack every other player at the table. 2-player game, so I'm only attacking him. He has an attack of 3. He has attack of 2, or defense of 2, so he's defeated. End of fight. I may now use whatever quiddity I have left to buy dice that are remaining on the table if I'd like. So since I had 5 quiddity, I'm going to buy this Mighty Witchling Hag, pick up the die, and then move it to my used pile. The game continues until the winning scoring condition is met. In a 2-player game, it's 20 points. In a 3-player game, it's 15. And a 4-player game, it's 12. Although, based on experience, I'd say ignore all that and just play all your games to 20, because otherwise the game may end quite prematurely.
So, Quarriors is hot, 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 hot. Oh my word. I freaking love this game, and I don't understand why. I've spent the majority of my gaming career avoiding everything that this game represents. The dice, the fantasy, the deck building. I really do not understand it. This game speaks to me on a level that I'm just not familiar with. I guess maybe the tiny little bit of magic juice that's in this is it kind of acts like a Euro, because no matter how hard you try, you still never have enough time to do exactly what you want to do. So just a sprinkle of that with all those other bad things somehow made this an amazing game. I mean, I'm sitting here doing this review, and I'm looking at the table over here, and I just want to roll these dice. Just want to keep rolling. But I can't. I gotta finish this thing, and then as soon as I'm done, I'm right back over there. It's a fantastic game, and I've explained before how I don't like dice because I don't like luck, but it's sort of like an equation where it's a certain amount of luck versus the choices that you have versus the amount of time the game takes. And in this case, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of luck. You could have the perfect plan and everything just goes to hell just because you don't roll properly, but it doesn't matter because it plays so quickly. 2 players, under 20 minutes, no problem at all. And I'm just so pumped up about this game. What more can I say? It goes against all logic, but this is a 10 for me on the BGG scale. And anyone who knows me, I don't give 10s. There's always some little thing that just makes me bump it down to a 9 or an 8.5, but no. This is a great game. If you have any inkling about, whether you want to try this game or not, just go out and buy it. I just guarantee you're going to like this. So, see you next time.